Hi, today we're going to focus on how to make nice looking graphics and in Quantlab. And we're going to start out with a workspace that we've prepared a little bit. And as you can see, we have some code that presents zero coupon yield curves. And in the workspace, we want to be able to switch between different models, and we want to be able to switch between forward curves and spot starting curves, and we want to have some controls for which curve we're calculating, and we want, well, some modeling options to show in the graph. But we also want some graphic elements like a value cursor. We want some labels that tells us which models we're using. We want some labels on the axis, and we want perhaps a heading for the graph. So let's go ahead and try to create this graph with these functions step by step. So let's first look at some of the code that we have that we're expressing in this window. First, we have just a string, a list of models, which returning a vector of strings. We're going to use that as in our drop-down. And then we have the main function that presents the yields, and it returns something called a vector of point number. And it gives us the option to, depending on which model we're choosing, we get a different discount function as the output from this function. And down here we also have the logical, if we're presenting forward rates or if we're presenting spot rates for the zeros. And down below here we have the actual input instrument yields, so the swap rates, the market swap rates. So we're presenting those as well. And at the last here we have a label that we can use to label our instruments if we want some labels. Okay, so how does this work? Well, we're going to recreate this. So I'm going to fold this down and we're going to do it again. So let's insert an empty graph and let's give it a good name. My second graph, and it's empty. So, and let's bring in the main function, one, and we're going to bring in a second one so we can choose. Now you see you have duplicate controls. We also want the instrument yields for the same curve, so we're going to drag one of those in as well. And now you see that we need to merge these parameters. So I'm going to start by right-clicking on and then going to Parameters Options. And here we have the option to merge our controls. So we're going to add these to some common controls. Long, short curve, trade date is common. Quote side, we'll use the same quote side. Models, we're going to have two of those. So let's models number one. And then the tenor is the same for everything. And the logical to show forwards or spots is the same. So now we can expand the second one, short curve, long curve, trade date, quote side, and models, that's a secondary setting. So let's move this up so they're together. And then we have the tenor, that's the same. And the forward, that's also the same. And then we have the raw instrument yields. And from there we have fewer controls. We just need the trade date and the quote side. And now when we press OK, we have merged these controls so we can give the separate functions the same input values. And as you can see, the models dialog is now just a string box. And we can then take the models string vector and attach this to the models. And then we get the enumerated list from the code that we can choose from. So now we're actually ready So we can choose. Let's take another curve. Let's take some Swedish rates. And we take a swap curve, and we'll take today's rates, so we'll have it in real time, and have mid quotes, and we'll take 0.25 as our tenor, and there they are. So now it looks a bit rough. We need to fix it. So we can start by fixing the legend by double-clicking on it, and then we can say that, okay, for the legend we want to see the short curve, and we will use a parameter, and then long, and another parameter, and then we will show the model and use the model from here. And then we can copy this, and then we will take the secondary one, we'll have the same. And for the third one, we'll just show the curves, or just write something static, yields, market yields, like so. So now we have the controls showing, so if we change, it dynamically changes with our changes. And now we want also the label, so we right click on the graph, and there we get some properties. My new graph, and we can change font, so we'll have it a bit bigger, much bigger. And then x-axis, year, y-axis left is yield, and then we're starting to look a bit the same. And now we can also add things to the graph, and then we go to View, Graph Mode, and you get a right-hand side bar. And for automatic zoom, every time it recalcs, you press these, and then you have the value cursor. You can have one or many. I think one is enough. We'll remove one. And then you also have the zoom info if you want to zoom in the graph. And if you press the home button, it will go home. And we can also get some points. So we can double click on the graph and put visible points, and we'll have some diamonds a bit bigger. So we get the actual yields where just points is good. And now if we want the labels, we can also actually draw the label function. Instrument names, I've prepared the label function. We drop that, and we attach that to the one we want the labels on. You see we get these, we need to parameters, we need to merge these as well, short, long, and trade dates, and recalc. And now we have some labels here. We can actually choose to display these, borders, show, apply. So now we can see which ones are the actual instruments going into this. So it looks more or less the same as the old one. And you can see now that we can choose the Nelson-Siegel-Svensson or spline or whatever kind of model now, so we can play around bootstrap quadratic model or something. And if we lose the zoom, we can just home in again, and it will refocus. As the last feature that I want to display before ending, we might want to get the data out of these graphs. And you could obviously either present them in tables, or you can actually get them directly out of the graph. So by highlighting a curve like this one, and then doing a copy, Control-C, and then going to an Excel spreadsheet and Control-V, you will get the data from the graph. So we can grab the data that's actually in the graph right now. So we can grab this and control copy, go back to Excel and get the data, the X and the Y values. If you go back to the graph and you make sure you do not highlight a specific graph and press Control C and then Control V, you get the bitmap from the graph, which can be convenient if you want to move this into PowerPoint or something like that. And with that, I'm going to finish. Thank you very much.